This is delicious!
Hey there, you're watching the premium edit of the Pokemon Gen 3 moves tier list. If for some reason you would like to see the full live stream, you'll find a link to that in the description. Please subscribe to the Imported Cheese Fresh channel. We are getting close to 1,000 subscribers, at which point we get that juicy monetization. Oh! And more importantly, the ability to add emotes. We can't do that yet. Please help. It's nothing but budget Onyx. Generation 3. Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and a lot of water. Some might even say too much water. I would actually say too much water. I don't understand why people meme on that particular IGN review, because it's true, right? There's way too much water. So let's see, how many moves were added in Gen 3? This many. I probably should have counted beforehand. I guess we can do that now, right? 103 moves added in Generation 3. So this shouldn't take us too long, right? Maybe a couple hours? So when I say Gen 3 moves tier list, I mean how good the moves added in Gen 3 are throughout the history of the entire series, not just in Gen 3 itself. And we're going to be pretty charitable, so we are going to be evaluating the moves based on whatever format they're best in. So for example, where is it? Follow Me? Starts with an F, right? This is in alphabetical order. I added Follow Me, right? Follow Me, obviously completely useless in singles, so we're going to be considering it in doubles where it's best. If you're a big Gen 3 fan, you might notice that there's quite a few moves missing from the S section, notably all of these shadow moves. There's a lot of them. They're only available in, I would say, both Colosseum and Colosseum XD, but really it's only Colosseum XD, because Colosseum had only Shadow Rush. We're not going to be talking about them today because they only exist in spin-offs, but we will be talking about them if we ever do a Colosseum tier list, which, spoilers, we will be doing. When? No spoiler on that, because not even I know. For now, you can just consider the shadow moves as being in the shadow realm, which we will not be venturing to today. So quick rundown of the tiers themselves. At the very tippy top, we've got meta defining. These are the strongest moves of all time, and they define whatever meta they're a part of, whether that's singles, doubles, or maybe in-game. Then under that, we have staples, one of my favorite types of office supplies. And these are moves that are typically the best of their types, and just very solid go-to moves that you would probably use if you had them in your learn set. Then under that we have filler. These are just sort of your stopgap moves. You use them if you have nothing else. One way to think of this is like Tackle, for example, from Gen 1. I did not put in bad because you would actually use Tackle if you don't have anything else, right? It's a filler. Under that, we have niche moves. I wouldn't necessarily say these are worse than filler moves, but these are for moves that have a very specific use. Otherwise, they would be bad. And moves that are bad, I would just say, like, don't bother using them. They really, you can rack your brain, but I don't think you're going to be finding much use for moves in bad. But maybe you can. I couldn't. We are gonna kick the rankings off with Double A, Aerial Ace. And if you're wondering why a bunch of Pokemon that have nothing to do with flying actually managed to learn this flying type move, it's because it's a cutting move. So in Japanese, it's Tsubame Gaichi, which means reversing swallow, and it's a downward cut followed by an upward cut. I actually made a whole video about moves like this, shilling for myself. Final Fantasy XIV Samurai move as well, where they didn't even translate, they just called it Tsubame Gaichi. Why does Diglett actually learn this? I don't know, man. But it's a 60 base power flying type move, and the upside is that there's no accuracy check. It always hits, And previously, if you were Technician Scyther, you would probably use this as one of your best moves, but nowadays, you would just use Dual Wing Beat. Although, hey, Dual Wing Beat has 90% accuracy, while this has infinite accuracy. So is Dual Wing Beat actually better? Yes. So Aerial Ace, I think it's probably going to end up being a very high filler move, because quite a few Pokemon actually get Aerial Ace, and if you don't have any other options, I mean, yeah, you'd probably use it for some coverage. Quick quiz, what's Scyther's Japanese name? It's Strike. Did you know that Pokemon came out in the 90s? Aerial Ace, more like Aerial, pretty good. Not quite Ace level. Air Slash! Oh, Air Cutter, okay. So it's a 55 base power special, a flying move with a high crit rate, and eventually got buffed to 60 base power. Wow. Yeah, I think it's overall a little bit worse than Aerial Ace because there's no TM, so it has much worse distribution, and also nobody actually uses Air Cutter, right? It's pretty underwhelming. There's no Technician Pokemon that really want to use this. I guess you'd use it in Legends Arceus is kind of okay, right? If you don't have any other options, but overall, Air Cutter is not very exciting. Definitely a filler move. You replace it with Air Slash the instant that you get it, if you do get Air Slash. Shoutouts to Air Cutter for being one of Pidov's only flying move options for quite a while. Really wishes that it had Staraptor's moveset. I guess I'll just mention this now, because I think people will bring it up. Just crit moves and crit strats in general suck, okay? They're just not very good since Gen 6, where even though they made it easier to get yourself 2 guaranteed crits, or just high crit rates, crits only being 1.5 damage multiplier is not worth it in most cases. And by most cases, I mean all cases. Can I say that without being wrong? Arm Thrust. Really feels like this move exists kind of out of obligation. So this is a signature move for the Makuhito and Hariyama line because it's a sumo technique, right? I mean, if you've ever played Street Fighter, you know that E Honda he's arm thrusting. This move sucks. It's pretty bad. I'm almost putting it in bad, but it might be one of your only fighting move options for a little while. It's like 15 base power multi-hit fighting move, and on average, it just ends up being really, really underwhelming. Pretty much the moment you get a better fighting move, you're going to be using that, and there's a lot of better fighting moves, right? So until you get those, you might be thrusting, but yeah, arm thrust on average is just really underwhelming. And just in the interest of being comprehensive, so 15 base power, so even if you had Skill Link, and you hit every single time, that would be 75 base power. Mega Heracross is one Pokemon that gets Skill Link and can use Arm Thrust? Can. Don't use Arm Thrust. What are you doing? Just use Close Combat. What? Aromatherapy. Meganium fans rejoice because Aromatherapy is strictly better than Heal Bell, because Heal Bell sometimes, occasionally, might not actually cure the status of your own soundproof Pokemon, but Aromatherapy always heals the status of your entire team. Staple move, baby! So the Aromatherapy effect is the same as Heal Bell in like 95% of cases. It just removes all status conditions from all of your team members. That's a pretty good effect. If you have an Aromatherapy Pokemon, that's gonna be generally a pretty big boon to your team. Nice support move. I think that's about it for Aromatherapy, and we'll definitely be using this move at some point, so I guess you could say that. We'll smell you later. Assist. Very interesting Japanese name, Neko no te, which literally means cat's paw or cat's hand, and it comes from an idiom, which is Neko no te demo karitai, which literally means I'd like to borrow even a cat's hand or cat's paw, which doesn't make any sense. But what it like actually means is when you're super duper busy, you'll accept help even from a cat, and the cat, spoiler, probably not going to help you very much. Which is why it makes sense that this move is awful, except in Gen 5 where it was actually banned. So what does this move actually do? So what it does is it randomly pulls a move that one of your other Pokemon knows. Like the Pokemon that's not actually using Assist. Seems horrible. And it is horrible, except for the Giga Cheese in Gen 5, because what you would do is you would set up entry hazards, and then what you would do is you would use this on Lipard, who had Prankster. So Prankster gives all of your non-attacking moves priority. Assist is a non-attacking move, so you get +1 priority. And then, because you're using a phasing move like Roar or Whirlwind, which normally has -6 priority, through assist, instead of -6, it's actually +1. So you would actually just spam these phasing moves and very, very slowly, like paper cut your opponent to death through like infinite, endless priority hazard damage. Absolutely miserable. In honor of the brief, I won't say beautiful, brief, horrible moment where that cheese was possible, we will give it a niche placement. Other than that, it's bad, because why would you ever use this? As you can see here, a couple non-cat Pokemon actually get this through breeding. Most strangely, Drowsy, I guess. Of course, we can't talk about Assist without also talking about Dive Cats. Sorry that this doesn't quite fit on the screen, but I'll just read it out to you here. So, Dive Cats. A team in Generation 5 which features Prankster Liepard and or Purloin that know Assist and are holding a Lagging Tail or Full Incense. With the only moves known by other Pokemon being moves with a semi-invulnerable turn, or moves that cannot be called by Assist. If both Liepard and Purloin are being used, they also cannot know any moves other than moves with a semi-invulnerable turn or moves that cannot be called by Assist. Typically, Dive and Shadow Force are used. Shadow Force for being unable to be hit by any move, Dive to hit normal types. This setup means that Purloin and Liepard will use the move Assist with +1 priority, which calls a move with a semi-invulnerable turn. The next turn, they move at 0 priority, since they are now using a physical move, so Prankster doesn't apply. And move last due to the held Lagging Tail / Full Incense. Repeating this process, they will wear down the opposing team and are very difficult to kill. But not impossible, because you can still hit Dive Pokemon with Surf, Dig Pokemon with Earthquake. Starting in Generation 6, Assist can no longer call moves with a semi-invulnerable turn. Players speculate this was changed to specifically prevent this strategy. However, Assist is no longer usable and cannot be selected in a battle with the Generation 8 games. Womp womp. We'll just end with this very nifty Bulbapedia chart showing which moves cannot actually be called by Assist. It's a bit confusing, but the check mark means that it can't be called. And it's basically a bunch of moves that would be really easy to cheese with using Assist. So the phasing moves, Roar, Whirlwind, you can no longer call, and the semi-invulnerable moves, Dive, Dig, Shadow Force, you can no longer call. And I guess in a way, you can't even call Assist anymore, because they removed it from the game. Whoops. Astonish! 30 base power physical ghost move, 30% chance to flinch. Giga Filler. Right, I mean, the instant that you have a better ghost move, you're gonna use that, but if you don't, you might consider using Astonish. Anything else to say about Astonish? No, right? It's just a filler move. Blast Burn, the favorite move of 8-year-olds everywhere. I guess we'll also do Hydro Cannon and Frenzy Plant at the same time, because they were all added at the same time, right? In Leaf Green and Fire Red, said that in the wrong order. There's a move tutor on one of the islands that can give your starters access to Blast Burn, Hydro Cannon, and Frenzy Plant. So what are these? They are Hyper Beam clones. So they suck. In fact, the only reason why I'm not putting them in bad is because you don't actually use these moves, which, like, for the moves, players only care about one thing and it's disgusting, right? Base power. So, because Blast Burn, Hydro Cannon, and Frenzy Plant have 150 base power, which is good, when you use these as Gmax moves, the Gmax move number is a little bit bigger than it would be otherwise. But in terms of actually using these moves as 150 base power moves that then give you a recharge, no, don't do it. Hyper Beam clones are super duper bad because, like, the recharge turn is basically telling your opponent, kill me. And when I say kill me, I mean, like, your whole team, because they're gonna set up and then destroy you. Horrible. You should almost never, ever, 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 ever do it. You can sort of think of these recharge moves as having 75 base power over 2 turns. Really bad. Like, what a waste of a cool name in Blast Burn. And also Frenzy Plant, I guess, is a pretty cool name. Hydro Cannon, honestly, has not made sense since Gen 3, because this was originally for Blastoise, you know, who's got the cannons. But since then, you can give this to all of your water-type starters, and none of them have cannons. Blaze Kick. Blaziken has entered the chat. Honestly, I think this makes it to the bottom of staples as a very solid coverage move for some Pokemon that are kicking. If you can kick and you can get Blaze Kick instead of Fire Punch, yeah, you'd probably use it. It's not bad at all. 85 base power, 90 accuracy, high critical hit ratio, 10% chance to burn the target. Ooh, look at those secondary effects. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'd say it's overall better than Fire Punch. I'd rather have the extra power over the 100% hit of Fire Punch. Block. Functionally identical to Mean Look, which I believe we covered in Gen 2, so we'll put it in the exact same place as Mean Look. I believe we put it in niche. So it prevents your opponent from switching, which is very close to being an insane effect, if only it activated before your opponent could actually switch out. Typically what happens when you use Block or Mean Look is you select the move, and then your opponent switches to a Pokemon that beats you, and now you're trapped with them, and then you have to switch out. So you didn't actually do anything. Whoops. I mean, there's a lot we can say about Block, but it doesn't actually have to do with Pokemon, right? So like Block, the best move on social media, right? Haha. The first gym leader of Gen 1? Oh, nope, that's Brock. Ha 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 ha. Block, I mean, makes your opponent step on a Lego. That's an Oko move. Ha 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 ha. The Mega version of Block, Mega Blocks, actually worse than the normal version. You'd much rather have Lego, right? Mega Blocks are awful. Any other stupid Block jokes? I guess useful in the pay-to-win Chinese garbage that is Pokemon Unite, but I don't want to talk about that game. And if you're thinking that it's not pay-to-win because they tweaked the mechanics, you're wrong. It's blatantly pay-to-win. You can pay money and gain an advantage. Bad game. But yes, Snorlax in Pokemon Unite has Block, and it's pretty good there, I guess. We would be remiss if we did not mention that Block is one of the key pieces of Funbro. In fact, 3 of 4 pieces of the Funbro puzzle are actually on this list. We got Block, we got Slack Off, and we have Recycle. So we may as well talk about Funbro now. It's not actually very fun. So Funbro is Block to prevent your opponent from switching. It is Recycle to recycle your Lepaberry to make sure that you have infinite PP. It's Slack Off to prevent yourself from dying. And it's Heal Plus to prevent your opponent from dying. Well, why don't you want your opponent to die? It's because the whole point of Funbro is that it basically traps your opponent and yourself in an infinite loop in which neither of you can die, right? You can't die because of Slack Off, and you'll never run out of PP and struggle because of Lepaberry constantly being recycled by Recycle. And Heal Pulse prevents your opponent from struggling themselves to death. So it's basically, I have no mouth and I must scream. But in Pokemon form. I guess they can like scream in the chat. And their only way out is to concede. You could also theoretically concede and end the battle, but you're the one doing Funbro, so you're not gonna concede, right? You're a monster. Awful. So when we talk about Slack Off and Recycle, I'll also mention Funbro, but that's what Funbro actually is. It's not actually fun. We should play some ominous music here in the edit? Don't worry, I will. A bounce! I believe it's 85 accuracy, 85 power. Is that right? Yup. Notable for being Gyarados' best flying stab option. 25 plus years and counting, no flying moves on Gyarados except bounce. Or I guess hidden power flying back when that was physical. Very, very low staples, pretty much for the Gyarados thing. And for its use as a flying move that you can max Airstream with, because max Airstream is very good. Basically, if you're a Pokemon that's got legs and can jump, you probably get Bounce, so it's got better distribution than you might think. As far as 2-turn moves go, Bounce is one of the best, because the main issue with 2-turn moves is that they take 2 turns, so your opponent knows they're coming, and they can just switch to a Pokemon that can deal with it. But in the case of Bounce, because of the 30% paralysis chance, it's not actually a free switch. Even if you can take the hit, you might not actually want to take the paralysis, so that makes Bounce a lot better than Fly, despite the drop in accuracy. Brick Break, and the first message in chat about Brick Break is exactly how I feel about it. Underwhelming staple. Yeah, you're never excited to use Brick Break, but you probably still will, because it's a very decent fighting type coverage option that's on a bunch of Pokemon. So Brick Break is 75 base power, 100% actually fighting move that has the upside of shattering, reflect, or light screen. Although that very rarely comes into play, it's basically just, hey, I'd like to use a fighting move, and this is the only one I get. I guess I'll use it. I guess the upside of Brick Break is a lot more relevant since they added the really, really fun, fair, and balanced move, Aurora Veil. It's not actually fun, fair, or balanced, it's very overpowered. Bulk up! Get those gains! Those gains of +1 attack and +1 defense, which is a really nice boost. This is Physical Calm Mind. Overall, it's just better Curse, although not strictly better, because Curse is better when you want to actually lower your speed as in a Trick Room team, or if you want to use Gyro Ball and your Ferrothorn. It's got kind of limited distribution, but it's pretty good if you can learn it. It's especially good on like Pokemon like Gallade, I guess, where Gallade has good special defense. So you use Bulk Up to patch up your kind of piddling physical defense, and boost up your attack, and then you become very hard to kill. Do we drink a raw egg on stream to bulk up? Is that going too far? Gaston moment? Alright, Gaston cosplay, we are doing it. I've been convinced. You can't talk about bulking up without eating some raw eggs, right? And if you're an American viewer and you're really worried, in Japan we eat raw eggs all the time. It's not that big of a deal. One of the big dishes is called tamago kake gohan, which is literally raw egg on rice. Used to eat that all the time as a kid as well. Alright, so we'll have to do the singing intro to this, right? So, when I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs every morning to help me get large. And now that I'm grown, I eat 5 dozen eggs, so I'm roughly the size of a barge. Am I actually gonna drink this? I guess so. Ow. Yeah, that was pretty bad. I wouldn't do that again. Oh yeah, we're talking about bulk up. Yeah, I mean, this move's pretty good. Bullet Seed. Pew, 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 pew. Previously, pretty whatever, definitely a filler, but they decided to buff the base power to 25 a shot, which is actually, on average, 75 base power, right? Which is not that bad. And if you have Technician, as in if you're Breloom, you are going off. Pew, 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 doing big damage. This move actually is, I think, a staple at this point. Because the average result on Technician Breloom is actually your opponent being dead, which is very nice. Yeah, if you have Technician or Skill Link, so if you're Breloom, Chinchino, or Mega Heracross, you would actually consider using this move and doing very, very respectable deeps. But up until the actual base power buff to 25, back when this was just 15 a shot, it was pretty bad. And of course, even with the 25 base power, it is still a grass move, so you're getting very limited mileage. So this actually used to be 10 base power, so it was barely even filler. It was really bad. You got on average 30 base power of grass coverage. Ow. And against Chestnut, Dubwool, and Komodo with Bulletproof, this does literally nothing. Calm Mind. Really confusing because in Japanese this is Meiso, which is meditate. But meditate is a completely different move. So Calm Mind. It's the special bulk up, right? I mean, where do you work out? At the library. It's the worst image ever. So +1 special defense, +1 special attack. Very debatably could go in meta defining because it has way better distribution than bulk up. A lot of Pokemon are calm in their mind. A lot of very dangerous Pokemon. In fact, I think we actually are going to put this in meta defining. Kricketune was a Pokemon back in the day who was calm in their mind and you couldn't stop them. They were invincible. It's a more useful boost than you would think. It ends up making you very difficult to kill in a lot of cases. Kyogre would do this. I mean, Kyogre does whatever it wants, right? Kyogre's OP. It's a little less impressive nowadays, but back in the day, say in Gen 3, Calm Mind was where it was at. Where's the next move? I thought I did. Whoa. Really easy to overlook. Camouflage. I'm so proud of myself for making this one a camo background. Well, it is really easy to find Camouflage because it's in bad. It's our first move in bad. This is so bad. It's awful. So what does Camouflage do? It changes your type based on the area you're in. Are you really going to spend a move slot and a turn to make yourself a monotype you can't even control? That's based on the environment? No, you're never gonna do this unless you're playing that sadly very disappointing Pokemon Fire Red VR missions hack, where this was used as one of the better puzzles. This is the signature move of Starmie and Staryu? What types can you actually change yourself to? Well, let's look at a chart. If you're in a building, plain terrain, or a link battle, you become a normal type, so you would never do that. In sand, you'd become a ground type, okay. Caves and rocks, you can become a rock type. Tall grass, long grass, you can become a grass type, okay. And in water, you can become a water type. You're already a water type. Awful. Awful! It's so useless. And this was extra annoying because I had to look up how to spell camouflage. Oh wait, you're right, but geez, that's only for Gen 3. They added new types for it later on. You're right. Here you go. Here's the current list. No. Yeah, so camouflage. Nothing to see here. Charge! Okay, so this is clearly supposed to be the electric charge. It doubles the power of your next electric move. That's what it initially did. And nowadays, it also gives you a +1 special defense boost. Ooh, so you get a benefit. Instead of just using an electric move twice, you can also get a juicy special defense boost. I mean, it's better than camouflage. What makes this move so bad is it signals to your opponent, hey, next turn I'm gonna use an electric move. There's a type that's immune to electric. It's bad. It's so bad. Just use an electric move twice. That way you do the same total damage. Your opponent doesn't know that you're gonna use an electric move. And yeah, you miss out on the special defense boost, but you know what's one of the least important stats in the game to boost? Special defense. Awful. And you save yourself a move slot on not using charge. I guess if you want to play insane mind games, you could charge to trick your opponent into switching into a ground type and then hit them with a different move that beats ground. I will say that if my opponent used charge, I would have no idea what to do, right? I would just be really confused. Charge is especially bad because you can't actually hold your charge. After you charge, the next turn has to be the electric attack, otherwise you lose the damage boost. So you can't even charge and then electric attack at a later turn. Yeah, don't charge me. I want a refund. I'm filing a charge back. I charged this move with the crime of being bad. Guilty. We don't even need a trial. I guess this is the trial. Cosmic power. Talking about Galaxy Brain, this is literally cosmic, you know, galactic. +1 defense, +1 special defense. I don't actually know where to put this. I'm thinking like top of niche, so here's the thing. It makes you really hard to kill. And then what? That's... just being hard to kill doesn't actually do anything. The big combo with cosmic power is stored power, right? Because stored power increases in strength based on how many boosts you have, and stacking cosmic power is pretty much the most reliable way to not die as you get those boosts. The issue is there's a ton of ways to stop that, right? Dark types just cannot be hit by stored power, and your opponent can also, at any point during your cosmic power boosting, they can just crit you, negate all your boosts, and kill you that way. Which has a fair chance of happening because you're going to be spending a lot of turns accumulating these boosts, which is more and more time that you can get crit and killed. Your opponent can also just phase you out or clear smog you. There's tons of counterplay for this strategy, but it is pretty fun. And of course, there's also the chance that your opponent just can't stop you. I think the Wrath above put it well. Not often good, but insane when it is good. Sounds like a top of niche move to me. Covet. I think this is functionally identical to Thief? So previously 40 base power, now 60 base power, and it steals your opponent's held item. So it is Thief, except the typing is way worse because it's a normal type move. Thou shalt not covet, unless you're trying to get held items from wild Pokemon without having to catch them. So for that, I'll go ahead and put it in niche, I mean, like here-ish. So fun in-game niche that it makes it a bit easier to farm held items from wild Pokemon. In terms of actually using this in like an in-game battle, no. Use a move that does damage. Using this in competitive, no, because the issue is that in order to steal your opponent's item, you have to not have an item. And you want an item. So, you're not going to be using this. I guess this is now heavily associated with Squavit, who is really annoying, and I don't like that Pokemon, so I don't like this move either. Normal gem, fake out covet is very funny. It was just typed in the chat. I think there's a better way to get rid of your opponent's item. Crush Claw, awesome name. I think this is a filler move. I forgot the base power of this move. I know it has a 50% chance to drop your defense, which is actually a pretty significant upside. And 75 base power, which is not bad at all. But honestly, just use return, bro. I'd rather just have the consistently high power of return rather than the defense dropping chance of Crush Claw. But I mean, if you're Zangoose and you used your return TM on something else, and you just want to use an awesome sounding move like Crush Claw, yeah, you could. So no longer only Zangoose, quite a few Pokemon can be crushing with their claws. I guess now that return doesn't exist, Crush Claw has a bit more of a use, but I just hope they bring back return someday. I'm waiting for the return of return. I don't know why they removed it. Orange Crush Claw? Only Americans will understand. Orange Crush is a soda. We'll use the most overused intro ever, right? Without any further ado, let's dive right in. Ugh. So, dive. Integral part of dive cat strats, as we talked about with assist. This move's pretty awful. So for the most part, if you have dive, like access to dive, that means you also have surf, right? Just surf. Just surf. But for its role in dive cats, we'll go ahead and put it in niche. So dive is a 2-turn move with, I think, 80 base power. Just surf. What are you doing? I guess, yeah, dive is physical, whereas surf is special, but just use waterfall, bro. It's just wet fly. As I mentioned with bounce, in general, 2-turn moves are really bad because your opponent knows they're coming, right? And they can just prepare for it appropriately. Okay, shoutouts to Dive and Cramorant, because Dive on Cramorant is how you actually activate its ability with the Gulp Missile. Never mind, Surf also activates Dive, so forget about Dive Cramorant synergy. Also, why are you using Cramorant? Honestly, the best part of Dive is that it's a part of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, which is a show with Guy Fieri. I guess he's not actually Fieri or Fiery. He's damp in this case. Ooh. Doom Desire. Jirachi's signature move. And Jirachi's a legendary. This has got to be good, right? 10 out of 10 move name, right? Awesome. Doom Desire. It's a Steel-type Future Sight. I am not reading the description of Future Sight again, but at least nothing's immune to it? I think it'll escape bad, right? We'll put it in niche, maybe like here-ish, because it does big damage that nothing is immune to in 2 turns. And the big use of this is that because it hits in 2 turns, you can stack the damage on that turn, right? To kind of wall break, because they get hit with the 140 base power move and whatever move you use that turn. So that's a use for it, but in general, attack them now, right? Don't attack them in 2 turns. You don't know what they're gonna be doing in 2 turns. Just reuse the Future Sight rant, but dub in Doom Desire. Honestly, after further consideration, we are gonna bring back the Pokemon Homeless tier and put Doom Desire there, because theoretically, you can do all the things I just said, but in actuality, Jirachi doesn't actually use this. And Jirachi's the only Pokemon that has it, so oh well. And just to quickly explain the Pokemon Homeless tier, it's basically for moves that there's something about them where I don't think they can fit into another tier, so they're homeless. They're Pokemon homeless. Dragon Claw, Dragon Claw. Very solid, staple dragon move. In general, you would rather use Outrage because the goal is to kill your opponent, which Outrage does a lot better, but particularly in cases where you can boost your stats to the point where you don't actually need the power of Outrage, you would use Dragon Claw. Very solid move. What is it, like 80 base power physical dragon move, no additional effects. Pretty boring, but for the most part, it gets the job done because you're a dragon type with ridiculous stats. So even 80 base power honestly kills your opponent a lot of the time. So we mentioned that you can get away with using Dragon Claw over Outrage if you don't need the extra power, as in if you've boosted your stats. How do you do that? Oh! Dragon Dance, Dragon Dance. It's almost time to sweep my opponent. What do you need to sweep? You need power and you need speed. How do you get power and speed? Dragon Dance! What? This is probably the best boosting move in the history of the game overall. It just gives you exactly what you want. I don't think it's much of an exaggeration to say that many battles are all about setting up situations where you can safely Dragon Dance, at which point you probably win. Incredible move. It's hard to overstate how influential Dragon Dance has been throughout the history of the game. You get a good physical Pokemon with Dragon Dance, you Dragon Dance, and then the battle is over. That's it. Like, technically, Quiver Dance is better, but the Pokemon that have Quiver Dance, except for Volcarona, kind of suck. Whereas the Pokemon that have Dragon Dance, I mean, look at the Pokemon on screen now, right? That's I think they very intentionally did not give Garchomp Dragon Dance, because if it did, it would be beyond busted. Whereas right now, it's only busted. Wow, how disappointing. And no spoilers, but Dragon Dance also part of one of my favorite episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's really good in that show, too. I fear the next move, Endeavor. So Endeavor has a unique effect. It reduces your opponent to however much HP you currently have. So typically the strategy with this is to either Focus Sash or Endure to get yourself down to 1 HP, then you Endeavor your opponent to also reduce your opponent to 1 HP, and then use a priority move like Quick Attack or something like that to knock out your opponent. And then I guess you die next turn because you have 1 HP. But I mean, you took out an opponent, so this is an integral part of the Fear Rattata strategy, which we've talked about before when we talked about Endure. Not actually, like, good or threatening, but a very fun gimmick, right? So we'll go ahead and put this in niche. Eruption. When you use this move, it actually does extra damage if you say Krakatoa! That's not true, but you have to say it anyway. Eruption, and we'll do Water Spout at the same time because they're the exact same, they're just type swapped. So Eruption and Water Spout, they have 150 base power, wow! If you're at full health, and it gets weaker as you lose health. Eruption, I think we can go ahead and put as a high staple move, big damage on your Typhlosion, as long as they don't have spikes, or Stealth Rock, or if you haven't been hit. There's a lot of conditions, but Scarf Eruption, pretty fun to use. Water Spout, on the other hand, I think we're actually going to put at the very bottom of meta defining, because holy moly, Water Spout Kyogre is drenching the entire meta for generations on end. Eruption Groudon, on the other hand, is much worse because it doesn't get stabbed until the Primal Reversion, and also it's a special attack, and Groudon is not a special attacker, whereas everything just lines up for Water Spout Kyogre to actually just destroy your team. Water Spout Kyogre was so dangerous, you were actually, not as a joke, running Parasect because of dry skin. That's the biggest endorsement for Water Spout you could possibly give, right? Extrasensory. Bizarre distribution? Like, I never remember which Pokemon have extrasensory. It's a lot of Pokemon you wouldn't expect. It's also got a really weird animation where it, like, tugs your opponent in, like, different directions. It's really uncomfortable. It's generally worse than Psychic because you trade a bit of power for a flinch chance. I'd rather have the power, but, I mean, where's Brick Break? It's basically Psychic Brick Break. We got the Brawn, here's the Brains. You're really not that excited to use extrasensory, but sometimes it is what you'll actually use because it's your best attacking option for coverage. Yeah, we can actually move extrasensory down in staple, sure. A couple people have mentioned, for some reason this was the signature move of Nuzleaf. Very weird. Nuzleaf is not even a psychic type? Extra, get your coverage moves here. At the very least, it's a huge upgrade over sensory. I'd definitely rather use extrasensory. Facade. I'm sorry to do that to you. I know it's Facade. But when I was a kid, I mean, I didn't know that. I just called it Facade. I think it's a French word, right? Facade. I don't know why it's called Facade. So what it does is it's 70 base power, 100 actually normal type move, but if you're statist, its power doubles to 140. Ooh! So you're doing big damage, and I guess the flavor is that you appear to be weak, right? Because you're statist, but it's just a facade. Whoa, it's a trick, and behind that, you're dealing big damage. So this got way better with Generation 4 and the introduction of the status orbs, Flame Orb and Toxic Orb. Because once, as a Guts Pokemon, you can reliably status yourself, then you can start facading up a storm and actually doing very big damage. I'm gonna put it here-ish. If you are a Guts Pokemon, you would absolutely go ahead and do some facading. If your name is Swellow, you love this move. Unfortunately, you're still a Swellow, so you're not getting that far, but it's an option. If you're not statusing yourself, it's not worth running Facade on the hopes that your opponent will status you so that you can move it. You really only use it in combination with self-statusing items. Additional points about Facade, Obstagoon loves this thing. It's also a better move for Zangoose than its own signature move of Crush Claw. Since Zangoose has Toxic Boost, so you'll status yourself for that, and then you can go ahead and start Facading. People in the comment, or at least one person in the comments, was like really adamant that Toxic Boost was not that much worse than Guts because switching into Will-O-Wisp doesn't happen that often. Happens a lot, guys. We'll get there. Alright, Fake Out! Just kidding! Oh, get tricked! Yeah, this move's really good. 40 base power normal move. That doesn't sound too exciting, but of course, it has the massive upside of always flinching your opponents. So you can sort of think of this as free damage, wow, at the expense of one of your move slots, which honestly is a price you'd probably be willing to pay, especially if you have Technician or if you get Stab on Fake Out. A Japanese name of this is Nikko Damashi, which literally means cat trickery, which is why a bunch of cats get it. But what it actually is it's a sumo move, where you're really faking out your opponent. The webcam can't even keep up with this level of speed. Overall, a very good move. In singles, I would probably just put this as a high staples move, but yeah, the real reason why it's in meta defining is because of doubles, where you're getting faked out constantly. Use this to stop one of your opponents from acting so that your partner can do something. Stop both your opponents from acting. Just spam fake out. Switch out and in just to use Fake Out. This move is crazy. It's everywhere. It's free damage, unless your opponent has Inner Focus, but they probably don't, so it's free damage. Very nice. One of the big downsides of Fake Out is that Dynamax Pokemon can't be flinched, but I mean, Dynamax is just OP anyway, so whatever. If your opponent's not Dynamax, Fake Out's really good. Fake Tears. I mean, they're not gonna be fake for too long, right? Because you use this move and then you lose, because it's not very good. I won't say it's bad or useless, but so what's the effect of Fake Tears? It lowers your opponent's special defense by 2 stages. Here's an idea. Attack them. In general, lowering your opponent's stats is not really worth it. You'd much rather boost your own and then attack with those. Because then the boosts stay on you as you run through your team, whereas with Fake Tears lowering one of your opponent's stats, you then beat that opponent, maybe. And then you have to start lowering stats all over again. Not very impressive, but I won't call it useless. Apparently in VGC, Fake Tears is good. I think that might be fake news. I've never seen it, but I mean, I'm not an expert on double, so it might actually be true. If it is true, leave a comment for the engagement and to tell me that I'm wrong. Metal Sound also does a harsh special defense reduction. Just think of these as like special screech. This one even has to do with sound. Oh, Metal Sound is 85 accuracy? Uh-oh, they're not the same. So Metal Sound's actually significantly worse than Fake Tears. And Metal Sound's blocked by Soundproof. It just gets worse and worse. Alright, Metal Sound is so much worse that we're gonna go ahead and put in bad. So it does have a lot of downsides compared to Fake Tears. It's got 15% less accuracy, and it's got worse distribution, and it's also blocked by Soundproof. So really, they're not that comparable at all. So dry those Fake Tears. At least you're better than Metal Sound. Feather Dance. Well, Dragon Dance is really good, so Feather Dance has also gotta be, it's whatever. So Feather Dance is functionally the same as Charm. Charm reduces your opponent's attack by 2 stages, which is what Feather Dance does. But if you're a bird instead of, like, cute. Reducing your opponent's attack by 2 stages is actually among the more relevant debuffs you can do to your opponent, because if you stop your opponent from being able to hurt you, you can then go ahead and do, like, setup stuff yourself if you want, or something. I wouldn't do it, but you can. I wouldn't quite call it bad. Flatter. Don't flatter yourself too much. Flatter in tatters. This move is, bottom of niche, maybe. So what does Flatter actually do? It's like Swagger, but it's special. So it boosts your opponent's special attack, and it confuses them. It's just a downside. So the thing about Swagger was that the confusion damage is actually a 40 base power typeless physical attack. By using Swagger on your opponent, you're also increasing the amount of damage they deal to themselves with that confusion damage. Flatter, you're just giving your opponent a special attack boost. What? Like, why? It's like Confuse Ray attached to a downside. I'm putting this in bad, actually. Like, what? Why? I guess you could flatter your partner if your partner has own tempo and is a special attacker. Like, that's one thing you could do. Don't do it, though. It's bad. Just as a quick refresher on why confusion is bad, especially considering the nerf to 33% chance. It's a 50% chance for your opponent to, like, do nothing and hurt themselves, but it's a 100% chance for you to spend a turn applying that status. You remember the times you get destroyed by confusion RNG. You don't remember the many times where it actually worked out in your favor. And unlike Swagger, Flatter is only a one-stage boost, so it's not even comparable to Swagger if you're using it on your partner for meme boost strats. Bad. Unironically, I think Flatter is worse than Metal Sound. I agree. Focus Punch. This might actually be the biggest brain move in the entire game. It's a charge move? Not charge, thankfully. At the beginning of your turn, you start tightening your focus, and if your opponent doesn't damage you on the same turn, you then unleash a 150 base power, 100 accuracy fighting move. Whoa! Big damage! If you actually get to use it. And you do get to use it if you're smart about it. So we're gonna put this in staples, baby. It's very hard to use. You basically have to correctly predict that your opponent is not going to attack you. Because if your opponent does damage to you directly in any way, you lose your focus, and then you just skipped your turn. So you can either put up a substitute, at which point you know that your opponent's not going to damage you unless they, you know, hit past your substitute with like a multi-hit move or like a sound move. But they're probably not going to do that, at which case, bam, big damage. Or if your opponent switches, in which case, bam, big damage. Or if your opponent uses a status move, in which case, bam, big damage. A lot of instances where you actually do big damage. You just have to correctly predict that you're gonna actually get the punch off. Which you will, if you're a good player. So it's good if you're good, and it's horrendous if you're bad. Reward skill. Good move. Focus Punch is bad, it can work, but how? Sounds like you're bad, buddy. Sorry, that's really aggressive, but no, it's very difficult to use. Focus Punch is definitely less prevalent nowadays, but back in the day, as in Gen 3, there was a whole lot of sub-punching. Yeah, shout out to Focus Punch being really bad when Brawley uses it. I mean, he focuses on Brawn, right? Not Brain, so he can't actually Focus Punch correctly. Follow me, good idea. Please subscribe and consider joining the Discord and evolving into a mighty Patreon linked in the description. Let's talk about the move. So follow me. What it actually does is it forces your opponents to target you with moves. Obviously, in singles, that's completely useless. But in doubles, wow, this is really good. The reason why it has, like, finger animations is because that is the Japanese name. It basically means, like, focus on this finger, which is part of, like, a children's game that you play. And they translated it to follow me, which I think is fine. In most games, you would call moves that force opponents to target you a taunt effect. But taunt is actually different move with a completely different effect, so I think in Pokemon terms, you would call this a redirect. So forcing opponents to target you instead of whatever they actually want to target in doubles is insane, right? It's a key part of a ton of strats, way too many to actually list. Just like with how you have to say Krakatoa when using Eruption, you do have to say now it's Rhine time when using Follow Me. And if you've never played Xenoblade Chronicles, Rhine is one of the tank characters in that game who can force enemies to attack him. He doesn't use Follow Me, though. I think his move is called Mad Taunt. Okay, honestly, in honor of Follow Me making people use the Shadow Magmar in doubles, alright, we'll go ahead and put it above Water Spout. We'll promote it a bit. It's really, really good in doubles. Follow Me is the less sus Rage Powder, because you can block Rage Powder with some safety goggles. You can't block Follow Me. You're obligated to subscribe. Grass Whistle. Talk about hitting a sour note. Awful. So it's, I think, the same as Sing. 55% accuracy. The effect is good, right? Puts your opponent to sleep 55% of the time. 45% of the time, you wasted your turn. And this never existed in Gen 1, where sleep was actually Giga OP, so horrible. Somebody typed it in the chat, that's correct. Kusa, grass, that's right. Lol. This was horrible. Can I whistle? 55% chance for that to succeed. Just use Sleep Powder, bro. Oh, that's right. Grass Whistle is a sound move, so it bypasses Substitute and also isn't affected by Grass-type immunity to Powder or a Safety Goggle immunity to Powder. So many upsides. It's still bad. Grudge. What does this move actually do? You might not know. So, if you activate Grudge, and then your opponent faints you the next turn, all of their PP for that move is drained. It's so bad. It's so bad. So, here's something you could do. You know another way to prevent your opponent from using a move, instead of draining all its PP? Knocking them out with Destiny Bond, which has the same activation criteria and a way, way, way higher upside. Like, I can't even call this dollar store Destiny Bond. I mean, you go to the dollar store, you spend $1, and you get something worth $1, right? You don't get any. Grudge is so bad. It's nothing. You spend a move slot, you expect to die, you get killed, and what's the return on that? Nothing. Horrible. That's horrible. Awful. Oh, it's better than Camouflage. If I go down, I'm taking your PP with me. Awful. Good news for Grudge, unlike Destiny Bond, which was nerfed where you can no longer spam it on consecutive turns, you can always go ahead and hold that Grudge. You can hold it forever. Hold it on into the grave, because your opponent is gonna kill you because wow, why would they care about the PP drain? They wouldn't. If you Z move on Grudge, then it also becomes Follow Me. Hey, Follow Me is pretty good. Grudge isn't. And if your opponent knocks you out with his E move or with a Dynamax move, the PP drain doesn't even work. So like, I mean, people say you shouldn't hold grudges because it's like drinking poison and expecting your opponent to die. You shouldn't hold a grudge because this move sucks, that's why. How about that? Hail. What the hell were they thinking with this move, man? Alright, so I'll start with a disclaimer. Snow Warning and Gen 8 Aurora Veil, actually pretty good, okay? Actually okay. But we're not talking about Snow Warning. We're talking about using a move called Hail as one of your 4 moves and a turn to activate Hail. Has anybody ever done that in the history of Pokemon? Gen 3 Elite Four member Glacia does it to make it easier for you to beat her. That's about it. I don't know any context ever where you would equip an Icy Rock, select the move Hail, and start Hail that way. Hail is by far the worst weather condition in the game. It's completely carried by Aurora Veil being OP. Yeah, also, why is Hail in Gen 3, whereas all the other weathers were Gen 2? That's kind of weird. Like, they had extra time to think about it, and they, I guess, thought about making it even worse. Ugh. This move can go straight to Hail. Heat Wave. Whew, it is a scorcher today. Previously 100 base power, got nerfed to 95. In terms of single battles, I'd probably just use Flamethrower if I had it. I don't think the little tiny bit of extra base power is worth the accuracy drop. I think it's only 90 accuracy. Yep. The reason why this is going at the very top of staples is because in doubles, Mega Charizard Y is cooking your entire team with this move. So it's a spread move, which means it hits both of your opponents. And that means that it has lower power when hitting 2 opponents, except on Charizard Y, it's sunny, so they still die. Powerful. It is hot. Honestly, if you're neutral to this, you're probably still gonna die. It's very, very strong in doubles on Charizard Y. And it's also weirdly available. A bunch of like flying types seem to be able to get this move as coverage, notably Zapdos. Even Honchkrow likes this thing. One of my favorite gimmick Pokemon, Special Nasty Plot Crobat, also gets Heat Wave. Very nice. Helping Hand. For some reason, this always makes me think of Hamburger Helper, because I think it has help in the name, and also, like, the mascot for Hamburger Helper is like a sentient glove, which is kind of creepy. So Helping Hand, completely useless in singles, but in doubles, what it does is it boosts your partner's power by 50% for that turn. Hey! I mean, that's pretty good. I think we can make that a high staple. If you're like a support Pokemon and you want to give your partner some extra oomph, go ahead and give him a helping hand. Maybe it's sunny. Maybe there's a heat wave. And now your opponents are definitely fried. Ironically, like, just the fingers are actually stronger than the whole hand. But the helping hand is not bad at all. I forgot to actually clap at the mic when I did Fake Out. I'm sorry. Oh! I can't be that loud because it's kind of early and I don't want my neighbor to be that mad, but how? Boost your attack by 1. doesn't sound that good, but it recently got buffed, which actually makes it kind of cool. So Howl also boosts your ally's attack in doubles. I had no idea it did that. It's a recent buff. You still wouldn't howl, but it's okay. Put it above dive. It's also blocked by soundproof. And you might notice, oh, but this is like a beneficial effect. Yeah, I know, right? And you don't want to block it, but it still gets blocked. You'd much rather dance with some swords, but if you can't, and if you have a partner, start howling. Oh, you can equip a throat spray as well to get +1 attack and +1 special attack. So you're using an item just to get work up once. Hyper Voice. This says it's a normal type move, but let's be real. The only time it's used is when it's changed into a fairy type move through Pixelate, or I think Aurorus actually has Refrigerate to turn this into an ice move. It's not actually used as a normal type, it's used with those abilities that change it to a different type and also increase its power. In that sense, staple for sure. We're doing big damage with big voices. Signature move of Billy Mays, of course. Hi, Billy Mays here. Somebody in chat said Hyper Voice destroys natural objects in Gen 6. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. So apparently destroying certain background natural objects allows you to like pick up items afterwards? That's pretty interesting. I didn't know about that. It probably would help if we had some pictures of these natural objects, but Bulbapedia not feeling too good today. Primarina's Liquid Voice makes this a water move, but unlike Refrigerate and Pixelate, it doesn't actually give a power boost, so who cares? Just use Surf, what? Yeah, hits through substitutes, so it must be good. I mean, I guess. Man, Liquid Voice is really underwhelming. Liquid Voice doesn't suck, it's just not as good as the 8 abilities? Well, okay, let's see what moves does Liquid Voice actually affect? What does that actually do? So it changes all of these things, all of these moves to water. That doesn't do anything to any of this. That seems useless to me. I guess Aerialate also affects Hyper Voice on Mixed Mega Salamence. Ice Ball. We're rolling. I have to put the rolling Spheal on screen right now. It's Ice type rollout, so all the things that apply to rollout also apply to Ice Ball, so you can double the power with Defense Curl. This move's pretty bad, but I mean, it's filler. I mean, it does damage. I don't know when you would actually use this. Because if you're training your Spheal, that's about it. Not your ice move of choice, but I mean, it does something. And yeah, you can also use this in meme max damage calculations like you can with rollout. If you use this against the Noibat, they see me rolling. They hate. Critical Dimension. Completely blocked by Bulletproof. Watch out. Important observation by Prada with an O. Hisuian Electrode gets Ice Ball. Thunderbolt and Ice Ball. Bolt Ball, baby. Bolt Ball sounds like it'd be pretty fun. I hope it's better than Blitz Ball from Final Fantasy X. Awful minigame. Oh. Icicle Spear. Multi-hit ice move, 25 base power per hit. This is basically only used on Cloyster, but when it's used on Cloyster, you die, so it's pretty good. Shell Smash, and then Icicle Spear you to death. With skilling, this is 125 base power ice move, and it gets stab on Cloyster, so you're dead. Okay, does any Pokemon other than Cloyster actually use this? So the average base power is 75. So Kyurem Black apparently doesn't get any other physical ice moves, but it's not why Icicle Spear gets to be in staples, it's because of Cloyster. I guess while we're talking about Cloyster, we may as well also just do Rock Blast. Rock Blast is definitely used on the Shell Smash Cloyster that's about to kill your entire team, so just put it next to Icicle Spear. So Rock Blast is, I think, 25 base power per hit, same as Icicle Spear, multi-hit move. And Chinchino, I guess, can use it. And Wild Gravelers can use it to drag out the battle and waste your time. Oh, how could I forget? Toucannon gets Rock Blast. And I could forget because when I used Toucannon in the Karen challenge, I think we missed Rock Blast and like we lost because of it, so. Oh, and Mega Heracross gets it. Okay, yeah, all right, Rock Blast actually, you know what? We'll go ahead and put Rock Blast ahead of Ice Spear because it's actually a fair amount of Pokemon that can actually use this. Imprison. This is one of the weirdest moves ever, and the strangeness starts with the name. In Japanese, this is just Hoenn, which means seal, which is why the animation is like a wax seal. If you ever watch Naruto, everyone's always saying Hoenn! Everything's getting sealed. Roy loves this move, right? He's got the Sword of Seals. And in English, the name is imprison, which to me, as an English speaker, especially as an American, imprison only means one thing, right? Lock him up. Put him in the big house. Throw him in jail, right? That's what imprison means.
Well done.
Traitor!
Ganon is once again imprisoned. Come.
The effect of imprison is nothing like that, right? It does nothing to actually stop your opponent from, like, switching out or, like, affecting their movement in any way. What it actually does is it prevents your opponent from using any moves that you also have. And one of your moves is imprison, right? So really you're locking your opponent out of 3 moves. This is so weird. So the main use of this move is in doubles. You use imprison to prevent your opponents from also protecting, which is why if you have detect, you should use it, because then that means your protect can't get sealed by imprison. And a giga gimmick you can do with this that's really fun is if you imprison with Mew and then transform into your opponent, imprison stays active after the transform. So because transform also copies all your opponent's moves, and your opponent can't use moves that you have, and you have the same moves, they now can't use their moves. Honestly, I think it goes at like the very bottom of niche. It's so awkward to try and get to use this, but you can do something. This move is whack. My best guess as to why they called this imprison instead of seal is because there's a Pokemon called Seal, right? I mean, they spent about 3 seconds to change the spelling of Seal from S-E-A-L to S-E-E-L. And if they had a Pokemon and a move that were the same name, I guess people would be confused. Maybe they should have just come up with a better name for Seal. It's not like anybody remembers or uses Seal anyway. Awful Pokemon. Another use of Imprison is you can use Trick Room and Imprison to stop your opponent from ever using Trick Room, right? So you don't actually want to use Trick Room, but you have it on your moveset so you can Imprison and stop your opponent from using it. We'll move it above Fake Tears. Ingrain. Pretty useless in-game. This move is pretty funny. So what Ingrain does is it puts down some roots. It basically gives you an additional leftovers recovery, right? It gives you the leftovers effect. And it also prevents you from switching out. And when I say that, I both mean your opponent can't force you out. You also can't leave. You can't switch out either. So it sort of debuffs you in that way, but you can still leave with Baton Pass, which is where you would actually use this move. So you use this on Baton Pass chains to prevent you from being roared or forced out. In addition to the recovery, but mostly to prevent being forced out. In that sense, hey, it's pretty cool. High niche? Unfortunately, Baton Pass chains have been banned for being too good. But if you were on a Baton Pass chain, you were maybe putting down some roots. Apparently, if you're a ghost type who can ingrain, so Trevenant, you can't be forced out, but you can still switch out at will. Wow. Iron Defense. Huh! I think it's hilarious that this gives you less of a boost than Cotton Guard. Iron, apparently not as defensive as Cotton. +2 defense. Very meh. But hey, if you're doing a Baton Pass chain and you're Scizor, I guess you're using Iron Defense. I guess we'll put it next to Ingrain then, right? Very good to mention that with the addition of Body Press, this is basically Swords Dance, but it also makes you harder to kill, which is pretty nice. And this is the exact same as Barrier. Knockoff. So Knockoff was always pretty good, even when it only had 20 base power. It used to not actually remove your opponent's item, it just disabled it from being used. But now it actually like removes their item, so they can get another one if they use like Thief, but they're probably not going to. Knockoff having 20 base power, I mean, it may as well have been 0, but you didn't use it for the damage, right? It was just a nice bonus that it also broke Sturdy, broke Focus Sashes, and I guess if you were taunted, you could still use it because it had non-zero base power. Always a move you'd consider using on support Pokemon because removing your opponent's item is a really nice effect. In Gen 6, I guess they felt bad that the new fairy type resisted dark, so they buffed Knockoff a bit. Now, in addition to removing your opponent's item, it also removes all of their health. This move is so stupid. I don't know what they were thinking. It's absolutely ridiculous. The only reason it's not above Dragon Dance is because Dragon Dance has always been good, and Knockoff was like, it was pretty good until Gen 6, at which point this is like one of the best moves in the game. It's so ridiculous. So how Knockoff works now, same effect, it removes your opponent's item, but it has 65 base power. That's already pretty good. I mean, people run U-turn, not for big deeps, but for the utility and okay deeps. But if you actually remove your opponent's item, which you will because every opponent has an item, the base power increases by 1.5. So you get a 98 base power dark move that also will always apply a debuff that your opponent absolutely hates. Because remember, your opponent picked whatever item is best for them, and you just removed it. So if an opponent really wants extra speed from Choice Scarf, you just reduce their speed by 50%. If they really wanted extra power from Choice Band, you just reduce their power by 50%. If they really wanted to survive a hit with Focus Sash, they still survive. But hey, at least you drop them to 1 HP. And then you might be thinking like, oh, but maybe it's less reliable than Crunch. No, it's not. 2 knockoffs, one that gets the boost from knocking off the item, and the second one that doesn't, is still, on average, higher base power than Crunch. So if you can learn both Crunch and Knockoff, just run Knockoff. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be better. If your opponent has a Mega Stone or a Z Crystal, you don't actually get the power boost, but I mean, that's still fine. They removed both of those mechanics in Gen A, right? Huh? If you have Sticky Hold, you don't get your item knocked off, but you still die. And also, you're like a muck, so you're in trouble anyway. Pretty much, if you learn Knockoff, you should probably put it on your moveset. And if you're not sure which of your 4 moves to use, you should probably use Knockoff. Like, it's very rarely the wrong choice. Oh yeah, and if you're running a Colbur Berry to negate your Dark weakness, Ripperoni, because you still die. Knockoff, unfortunately, doesn't actually interact with unique items or like form-changing items. So like Grisius Orb, any of the Silvally items, or any of the Arceus Plates. You get to dodge the knockoff stuff. So if you're literally God, then I guess knockoff doesn't bother you that much. Wow. Leaf Blade. We are slicing and dicing. 90 base power, physical grass move, 100% accuracy, and high crit. That's a lot of upside. Does it offset the downside of being a grass move? Not quite, but this move is still a staple for sure. It's probably the best physical grass move in the game. I think this is actually, I mean, you'd maybe run Woodhammer for the extra power, but Leaf Blade's definitely a consideration. It also has very decent distribution, because if you can slice, you can probably Leaf Blade. I don't know why, I'm using my elbow here, because I guess Gallade gets this. Very solid move. This is about as good as a grass move gets. Luster Purge and Mist Ball. I think we can pretty safely stuff these in Pokemon Homeless. So yeah, these are the signature moves of Latios and Latias. Respectively. Latios is way better, and it also gets the better move, Luster Purge. These are functionally the same, except they have a difference in which stat they drop. I think they're 75 base power psychic moves. Luster Purge has a 50% chance to drop your opponent's special defense, and Mist Ball has a 50% chance to drop their special attack, which is way worse. Honestly, you wouldn't use either of these, you would just use Psychic, or Psyshock. That's it. I'd rather have the extra power over the extra chance to drop special defense. And the Mist Ball special attack drop is just useless. Luster Purge is a waste of a great name. I've read threads of people insisting they're better. I mean, people saying things on the internet doesn't make those things true, right? People used to think that Ike was one of the best characters in Fire Emblem 9. They said he was Ponage incarnate, and he's not. Except for the last 2 chapters. Magical Leaf! Woo! It's like a grass-type Swift. Filler! I think it's better than Arm Thrust. It's got surprising distribution, because several Pokemon that aren't like grass types, but have like magic affinity, like Gardevoir, can get Magical Leaf. Very underwhelming, but I mean, hey, if you're in the middle of your in-game playthrough and you have Magical Leaf and nothing else, I guess you would use it. And it never misses. Magic Coat. We can add this to the long list of moves outclassed by abilities, like Growl is outclassed by Intimidate. Foresight and Odor Sleuth coming up, outclassed by Scrappy. Magic Coat, outclassed by Magic Bounce. Magic Bounce is totally absurd, but Magic Coat is like, I don't know why you would use this. I won't quite put it in bad, but it's an interesting move. So Magic Coat, you use it, it has a really high priority, so it probably goes first. And then you bounce back a bunch of non-attacking moves. So you can bounce back like status-inflicting moves. You can bounce back status-lowering moves like Growl. Oh no, now your attack is lowered. But most importantly, you can bounce back hazards. If you predict your opponent to Stealth Rock you or like Spikes, you can Magic Coat and then you bounce it right back to them. That's a pretty powerful effect, but you have to correctly predict it. You have to spend a move slot on it, and you have to actually spend your turn on it. That's a lot of conditions. Only Deoxys Speed uses this move. Yeah, I guess because Deoxys Speed is very often a lead Pokemon, and You expect your opponent to hazard you. You can bounce back hazards with this. That's about it. Yeah, I think somebody brought it up, so we'll also do Snatch right now, because Magic Card is like reverse Snatch. Snatch is maybe one of my favorite moves. It's really fun, but I don't know if I would call it good. Quiz, what does Snatch even do? So when you use Snatch, you basically, you sort of lie in wait, and then if your opponent uses a beneficial move, you steal it. So if they Swords Dance, oh, it's my boost. If they Dragon Dance, oh, it's my boost. Why not just use the boosting move yourself? Good question. Nothing quite feels as good as predicting and then stealing a boost. S tier for fun, but yeah, I mean, we don't actually count fun in these lists. I guess Snatch gives you a way to steal boosts you wouldn't be able to get otherwise, like a Quiver Dance, but like, come on. You can't actually plan to go against a Quiver Dancing Mon and then steal their boosts. Like, that's not actually a strategy. And we may as well just show, like, all of the moves you can actually steal with Snatch. So there's a lot of them. I'm not going to read all of them out, but you can basically see it steals a bunch of beneficial moves. You can take all of them. They're yours. You thought you were going to drink that milk? It's mine. Young Link in the house. With Snatch and Milk Drink, you can literally do, I drink your milkshake. And also, here's what moves you can bounce with Magic Bounce. You can just see here, a bunch of status stuff. I'm not gonna read all this, but you can see it here. Mementos, the Playmaker. The description of this move seems really, really bad. Because you die, and then you drop your opponent's offensive stats by 2 stages. It's actually incredible. But it takes a bit of explaining. So, with moves that kill you, you expect a big return, right? So Explosion previously did big damage. No longer, so it's not really that good. Healing Wish, you die, but you get to bring in one of your other Pokemon and fully heal them. That's a big effect. Memento kills you, drops your opponent's stats, and we said previously that dropping your opponent's stats, not actually that useful, right? I mean, that's why we have Feather Dance kinda low. None of the moves that drop your opponent's stats we've rated very highly. So why am I putting Memento in Staples? Why? Because this pretty much gives your next Pokemon a free turn. Because it kills whatever Pokemon you use it with, so you get your own Pokemon out of the way. And it drops both of your opponent's offenses, so they're guaranteed to be in a weakened state when you bring out the Pokemon you want, which basically means you have a turn to do anything you want. Why this is good is the reverse of why Hyper Beam moves are bad, right? Because with the Hyper Beam moves, you're giving your opponent a turn, and with Memento, your opponent basically has to switch out because with both of their offenses lowered, they can't do anything to whatever Pokemon you just brought in that is probably really healthy and about to start dancing. But it does have a heavy cost, right? You do die when you use it. So if you didn't die, I mean, it'd be like higher. There's a move where you don't die. It's called Parting Shot. Not in the game yet, but it's really good. Yeah, and if you Z Crystal your Memento, it also becomes Healing Wish, where it fully heals the Pokemon you bring in, so it is just a perfect way to set up your sweeper. I guess we also have to mention that Mementos is a good area to grind in Persona 5, I guess. Been a while since I played that game. Fake Weeb. Meteor Mash. Awesome name, which is also really confusing. Because the Japanese of this is literally Kometto Punchi. You might notice there's an English name called Comet Punch. So what's Comet Punch called in Japanese? It's called Consecutive Punch, so ugh. Meteor Mash, thankfully, way better than Comet Punch. 90 base power steel move, 90 accuracy unfortunately, but chance to raise your attack. Metagross is using this to mash you into a fine pulp. Very good. Big damage. That's about it, right? I guess Lucario also uses this sometimes. Muddy Water. No reason to muddy the waters here with an overly detailed explanation. For the most part, you'd rather use Surf, because Muddy Water has some pretty shaky accuracy at 85, but it has a chance to drop your opponent's accuracy, which normally you don't really care about. The big thing is that even past Gen 3, when Surf started hitting your ally, Muddy Water continues to only hit enemies, which is the main use that it has over Surf. We'll put it in low staples for its usage in doubles. I also think it's really funny to think about how they made the animation. They just like tinted Surf brown. It's been the easiest day at the office Just put a color slider on it. We did it. Also, check out this image of a flooded Japanese subway station. No muddy water here. A mud shot. 55 base power, 95 accuracy. Currently special, but I mean, used to be physical. Back in Gen 3, when you used this on your Marsh Stomp, before you actually got Earthquake. And if you're 8 years old, which is the target audience of these games, the animation does line up so that it looks pretty funny. Mud Sport and Water Sport. Here's my analysis. The main use of these moves is sometimes AI opponents will use these and waste their turn. Complete garbage. What do they do? So, Mud Sport reduces the power of electric moves used, and Water Sport reduces the power of fire moves used. Okay. These moves are also really confusing. Like, what sport is this? I've never heard of it. Chances are, if you're watching this 6-hour live stream, or even the much shorter, crisper premium edit, this is about the most exposure to sports that you get in your life, right? The names actually are a little bit less confusing in Japanese, because it's basically mizu asobi or doro asobi, so it's like to frolic or play in mud or water. Really not sure how they got sports out of these. I wouldn't register for these leagues. Like, what makes these moves extra hilarious is that if you're using Mud Sport, you're probably a ground type, right? So you don't care about electric moves. If you're using Water Sport, you're probably a water type, right? So you don't care about fire moves. Awful. These moves, I've disqualified them, alright? No more sports. You're grounded. Mudded. Alright, well, apparently Krabby can get Mud Sport, and Krabby is weak to electric, so there you go. Huge counterplay. Nature power. And I guess also secret power, because they interact with terrain. Camouflage interacts with terrain, and it's horrible. Is nature power any better? I mean, a little bit. It's definitely still bad. So what nature power does is that it becomes a different move based on the area it's used in. And luckily for nature power users, the moves it becomes are actually really good. If you're using this in a link battle, so if it's a competitive match, it only ever becomes Tri-Attack. That's pretty unfortunate. Caves, it becomes Power Gem. In, I guess, just sandy areas, it becomes Earth Power. Hey, that's okay. Water becomes Hydro Pump, Snow and Ice, Ice Beam on a bridge. Air Slash! In grassy areas, Energy Ball, Misty Terrain, Moonblast. Hey! Electric Terrain, Thunderbolt, Psychic Terrain, Psychic. Wow, so most of these moves that it can become are actually pretty good. So why is it bad? Because what the hell are you running nature power for? How about you just use these moves? I guess the reason why you'd run nature power is because you can't actually use these moves, but you also can't control which nature power you get, right? You have to be in the certain area that becomes the move you want. When is this ever happening? It's not. But in honor of the fact that it becomes good moves, we'll put it at the very top of bad. How about that? Nature power is actually niche? I don't believe you. What is the niche? Because if you're in a competitive match, is Tri-Attack, unless you're in a terrain. In what context are you actually looking at your available moves and being like, you know what, I want to use nature power. I think that'll give me the edge I need. Here it is. The main use of nature power was back in Gen 5, in link battles, it actually became Earthquake. So for a very brief moment, it was not a joke. And we'll also talk about secret power. Because it has very similar interactions as nature power, except it's way worse. It's just bad. So secret power, it is look at this, 70 base power, normal move. So already not looking that great. Maybe it changes. Well, you get a 30% chance of causing a secondary effect based on the environment you're in. What are these secondary effects? Well, let's look at the most recent generation. In a link battle, so the place is probably going to get used, 30% chance to cause paralysis. Oh, okay. It might cause flinching in a cave. You could lower accuracy by 1 stage. Oh, sand in their eyes. Lower attack by 1 stage on the water. Soak them. Might freeze them on snow and ice, so 30% chance to freeze. That's actually really high. Might burn in a volcano. Lower defense by 1 stage in ultra space, but then you have to buy ultra sun and ultra moon. You're not going to do that. Causing sleep on grass terrain. That's something. Lowering special attack by 1 stage on misty terrain, who cares? Lowering speed by 1 stage on psychic terrain, that's okay. So most of these you don't really care about. And again, as with nature power, you can't really control the environments you're in unless you're using a terrain effect. Ugh, 70 base power, physical normal move. I'm unimpressed. We'll put it in filler. Mediocre normal type damage. And maybe it has a secondary effect. But I wouldn't count on it. And I guess you need secret power to access secret bases, but you know what? I never liked them. Please don't unsubscribe. Needle Arm! Hooah! I think it's a 60 base power grass move with a chance to flinch, but the Pokemon that have it Cacturne line and like the cactus Pokemon, they're like really slow. Filler! Put it below Magical Leaf because more Pokemon actually get Magical Leaf. That was easy. Odor Sleuth. I've sniffed out a placement for this move. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. So what it does, it's the exact same as Foresight, where it allows you to hit ghost types with normal and fighting moves. So it's really, really bad Scrappy. I guess you could use this to negate your opponent's immunity to Rapid Spin. Does any Pokemon actually get Odor Sleuth and Rapid Spin? Donphan can Odor Sleuth and then Rapid Spin on ghosts. And AI opponents can Odor Sleuth to waste their turn, allowing you to beat them. It's about the extent of the use for Odor Sleuth. Wow, people hate Odor Sleuth. Alright, fine, this move stinks. Oh, and I completely forgot to mention that it negates enemy evasion boosts. It doesn't matter. Alright, I personally think nature power is bad, but I guess I'll consider viewer input and I'll put it at the bottom of niche. But I think it's bad. Overheat! Well, we're not gonna overrate this one, but it's really good. Big damage! Boom! 140 base power fire move, but then it drops your special attack by 2. So I think this is the right way to do powerful moves with drawback. Because you still have a lot of freedom in what you can do next turn. You can just go ahead and overheat again, at which point, I mean, honestly, you probably want to switch out, but it's good. Power at a price, at a reasonable price. I would pay that. It's also very, very good on mixed Pokemon, so like Mixed Salamence loves this thing because if there's a Pokemon with really good physical defense, but like weaker special defense, you can just overheat, blow them up, and then you're not actually going to use your special attack again, so the downside doesn't even affect you. We'll also do Psycho Boost at the same time because it's the same except it's just type shifted with much lower distribution. But Psycho Boost is used on Deoxys attack to delete your opponent. And then I guess you better switch out. And yeah, both of these moves have been nerfed. They used to be 140, now they're 130, but still really, really strong. So Psycho Boost, Legendary Privilege, it actually never got nerfed down to 130. It's still 140. Boostin'. What a weird name though, because you'd assume that Psycho Boost is some sort of, boosting move, and it's not. It's actually the opposite. It drops your stats. Very weird. What's the Japanese? It's Psycho Boost. It's the exact same. It's literally Psycho Boosto. Oh, it's not long. Psycho Boosto. Yeah. Poison Fang. I had an argument with a viewer once about the actual poison chance of this. I thought it was 30%, but it's actually 50. Wow. So a lot of weird things about this move, because it's actually a 50% chance to inflict a poison status. And it's not just poison, it's toxic poison. I don't think there's another way to inflict toxic poison aside from the move Toxic and 2 layers of Toxic Spikes. So that's pretty unique. Is this move actually any good? I mean, no, not really, but generally if you're a Pokemon that wants to inflict your opponent with Toxic, you just use Toxic, especially because Toxic has way higher distribution. And Poison Fang, it's basically on a couple poison Pokemon. You're not doing big damage, you're barely doing any. It's pretty weak. Like a very paltry 50 base power on arguably the worst attacking type in the entire game. Really not worth using it as an alternative to Toxic. You would just use Toxic. The damage and the status aspect of Poison Fang kind of pull it in 2 different directions. Because in competitive, you don't care about the damage, it doesn't do any damage, just use Toxic. That's what you really want to do. And in-game, you don't care about the toxic aspect, you just want to do damage, and it doesn't do that much damage. Very disappointing. It's better than Poison Tail! Yeah, so Poison Tail is a 50 base power poison move with a chance to regular poison. What's that chance? Well, Poison Fang at 50%, right? So what does Poison Tail do? 10% chance. So basically never. Most of the time you're just using a 50 base power poison move. Horrendous. Ripperoni Seviper. Crush Claw's definitely better. It feels like Poison Tail has a high crit rate, right? Sharp Tail. It does have a high crit rate, hey. High crit rate's not worth much. Recycle, or according to what I wrote here, Recile. Sorry. So Recycle, it gives you back a consumable item if you used it in battle. So say you used a Citrus Berry, you can get it back. A Chesto Berry, you can get it back. Or a Lepa Berry, because you're fun, bro. Yeah, we talked about fun, bro, earlier, so we're not gonna do it again, but I think this is a very solid niche move. You can use Recycle for some fun cheese strats with consumable items that are no longer consumable, assuming you're willing to spend a move slot and a turn to get it back. Somebody suggested that I just do the entire Fun Bro bit again, because we're recycling and reusing and reducing, the 3 R's, but no, I'm not gonna do that. Not recycling content. Who do you think we are? This ain't Game Freak. Recycle, unfortunately, hard countered by knockoff, because if your item gets knocked off, you can't recycle it. As if knockoff needed to be stronger. Apparently, one of the only items you can't actually recycle is air balloons, so I guess the plastic just wasn't recyclable. Refresh. Pokemon Refresh. What generation is that from? 7, maybe? Me was 6, right? So Refresh, very straightforward, cures your own status condition. We'll put it next to Recile. You'd much rather have Natural Cure, which just heals you when you switch out, but if you don't have it, maybe you're gonna refresh yourself. But there's a bit of tension here, because maybe you would rather just run Rest, because then that also cures your status, but it also heals you, but it also puts you to sleep. So you might run Refresh instead, since that doesn't put you to sleep. I think it's fair to say that this is strictly worse than either Aromatherapy or Heal Bell, because Aromatherapy and Heal Bell also heal your status, not just your teammates. But I think Refresh might have more PP. I guess a nice use of Refresh is if you're on a setup Pokemon that doesn't want to be statused, like as somebody mentioned, E-Killer Arceus. Really hates getting Will-O-Wsip, and you can just go ahead and refresh that burn right off, and then continue mauling your opponent's team. Nice. Revenge. A dish best served cold, and yet it's a fighting type move, not ice. So 60 base power, but if you get damaged, then it doubles to 120. Whoa! Big damage! It's basically a 60 base power move. It's filler. Here, it does actually do big damage if you get hit. It's so unreliable. If you don't get hit, then it's very mediocre. And this does have negative priority, so it helps you with getting hit, but what if you don't want to get hit? What if you just want to hit your opponent and kill them without taking a hit first? Yeah, you'd much rather do that. And somebody did mention it, notably in Smash, because Incineroar, I think, has Revenge as his down B. You can do some really silly stuff with insane revenge damage. Rock Tomb. Maybe this is what they were alluding to with the mysterious TM for Tombstoner. Yeah, Rock Tomb, it's a pretty good filler move. I'm gonna put it really high up here, so it's 60 base power rock move. With upside, it reduces your opponent's speed. And if you're Bloom with Technician, this is actually, I'd say, better than Stone Edge, because you get the speed drop, which is very relevant, because Bloom is sort of at that speed where probably faster after it drops your speed with Rock Tomb. I was thinking it's a pretty funny animation, like boom, 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 boom. And as if that wasn't enough to show that you were in Tomb, then they hit you with the X. Also, Onyx uses this in Fire Red to crush your dreams if you pick Charmander. So Rock Tomb used to be 50 base power, 80 accuracy. Gen 6 big buffs, 60 base power, it's not that big a buff, 95 accuracy. Entomb them. Definitely better than Stone Edge on Technician Breloom. Honestly, if we put Muddy Water at the bottom of the tables, I think Rock Tomb has enough like special usage to actually make it a staple, I think. Let's get a Rock Tombstone pizza. Rock Tomb Raiders. Roleplay. I guess every move is roleplay because this is an RPG, right? And the RP stands for roleplay. Add this to the list of moves outclassed by abilities because Trace is automatic roleplay. Automatic roleplay is surprisingly good. Manual roleplay is as bad as you would expect. Why am I spending a turn to copy my opponent's ability? I'm not. Giga Gimmick very rarely pays off. I don't like it, but we won't quite put it in bad. It's low niche. Maybe there's something you can do with this. Anybody have any ideas? I don't. I'm assuming you can't roleplay Wonder Garden. Yeah, you can't roleplay Wonder Garden. So, nope. You can trace Wonder Guard. I remember being surprised that you could. Roleplay is the move of choice in Limsa Laminsa. You have to unequip your items first, though. Only FF14 players will understand. Which you should be. There's a very generous free trial that includes not only the entire base game, but also the award-winning Heaven's Word expansion. Truly never escape people shilling FF14? You can't. Game's too good, bro. Sand Tomb. We just used all of our tomb jokes on Rock Tomb. We can recile them. Alright, so Sand Tomb is very underwhelming. It's Dusty Rap, I guess. Sand Tomb should be in bad. Well, I mean, it's not that bad, so it doesn't really do any damage, but it does trap your opponent, and it does deal periodic damage to them. It's not nothing. It's something. And apparently, Fire Scissor in the chat is really excited about Sand Tomb Scissor being able to beat Magnezone, I guess. But one of the reasons why Wrap and Bind were able to get a little bit of a boost in the list was because they existed in Gen 1, where the trapping moves were really dumb and completely locked you down. But since Gen 2, they no longer do that. They just prevent your opponent from switching and deal a bit of periodic damage. Alright, apparently Sand Tomb accuracy used to be 70, yikes, but now it's 85. Honestly, we're gonna put this in filler because there's quite a few ground-type Pokemon where early game you have nothing better to do in Sand Tomb. So I guess you'll toss some Sand Tombs over your opponent's way and hope that it hits. I think Gara has multiple sand moves, right? He has Sand Coffin, or it's like Desert Coffin and then like Desert Burial. Shadow Punch. From the shadows. A fist! You never saw it coming, which is why it always hits. It's filler. So you had people talking about Iron Fist Shadow Punch Golurk, just trying to make it work. But they've since added Poltergeist, which is way, way, way better. Here's a strat, eat a knockoff, so that you can't get poltergeisted. Unfortunately, you've become a ghost type yourself, because knockoff killed you. Sheer Cold. Kills your opponent in one hit, whoa! 30% of the time. If you're an ice type, because if you're not an ice type, it actually has an accuracy penalty. If you're an ice type, you're also completely immune to Sheer Cold, wow! Banned in competitive, not because it's good, but because it's just an RNG fiesta. Would you ever use this in-game? No, just attack your opponent and kill them. That's a 1-hit KO move. I mean, 30% of the time it kills your opponent, right? And 70% of the time it does nothing. I don't like those odds. Shoutouts to Gen 1 of Gen 1, Pokemon Green Blizzard. Because Pokemon Green Blizzard had a 30% freeze chance, and freeze in Gen 1, you were dead. You never thawed, so... It was basically a 120 base power ice move with a free Sheer Cold. Wow. I guess I'd say this is overall better than Horn Drill, Fissure, or Guillotine, because nothing is immune to this except for ice types, and for ice types you can just use any other move and kill them, so Sheer Cold's good in that sense. So Lord Remium mentions, there's only 4 1-hit KO moves in the history of the series, 3 of them were added in Gen 1, and the last one, Sheer Cold, was here in Gen 3. That's it. We're never going to talk about another 1-hit KO move again. There aren't any others. Shockwave! 60 base power special electric move. Perfect accuracy, never misses because it bypasses accuracy checks. Filler! We'll put it with Aerial Ace. Surprisingly high distribution, right? You get the Shockwave TM and start mildly shocking things? You would almost certainly rather use Thunderbolt, but maybe you don't get Thunderbolt. You get this from Watson in Gen 3, and I think Watson has a hilarious French name. In French, his name is Voltaire. That's really funny. Alright, so Signal Beam. 75 base power special bug move with a 10% chance to confuse your opponent. Alright. Unfortunately, this got hit by the Pokemon Thanos Snap because it got removed from the game. I don't know why. Probably going to be the least exciting addition to Staples. You're really sad when you use this move, but sometimes you would. Bug is just an atrocious offensive type. Pokemon like, I don't know, Espeon, where you're really hurting for moves to use. I guess you're using Signal Beam. It's better than nothing, and it's got pretty surprisingly good distribution. Quite a few Pokemon actually get Signal Beam, and would maybe consider using it. I think it goes a little bit above filler for that. Silver Wind! It's the bug type ancient power, so same effect, it's 60 base power, 10% chance to raise all of your stats, so if you're really lucky, this move's amazing. 90% of the time, this move is very whatever. It's okay on, like, Beautifly, but okay on Beautifly. What kind of endorsement is that? I've used this on Serene Grace Pokemon, like, I think Togekiss actually gets Silver Wind. You can go ahead and get a 20% chance for that juicy Omniboost. And I guess Scizor actually used this back when all bug moves were physical and before it actually got better physical bug moves. Did this move also get deleted? Wow, it really got deleted. I got an error. So Silver Wind also got Pokemon Thanos snapped, can no longer select it, so I guess you could say it's gone with the Silver Wind. Skill Swap! Not quite this video's sponsor's Skillshare. We're not sponsored. So Skill Swap does pretty much exactly what it says, it just swaps your ability with the enemy, or your targets. You can also use this on your ally. Typically, you're gonna use this on your ally to get rid of Truant, I guess. It's okay. And by okay, I mean niche. Where's roleplay? We'll put it above roleplay. I think it's generally a little bit better than roleplay. I guess you could say that since the Pokemon Coliseum final boss does actually try to use skill swap slacking strats, this is actually a final boss level strategy. Final boss of a Pokemon game, though. Don't get too excited. Can't skill swap Wonder Guard. Not really a surprise, though. Sky Uppercut. Very cool move, right? Shoryuken! Shoryuken actually does mean something, right? It's a Rising Dragon Fist. Sky Uppercut, we'll put it at the very top of filler. That's where it rises up to. It's not bad, you just have way better options most of the time. What's the actual base power on this thing? 85, wow, with 90 accuracy. Yeah, it's not horrible. Actually, in Gen 3, you're gonna be Sky Uppercutting on Blaziken and Breloom, because you can't really do anything else. It's not really a coverage move because the distribution is so low, and most Pokemon that actually are Sky Uppercutting have better things they can do, so it's not quite a staple. But it does have a very neat effect in that you can actually Sky Uppercut flying Pokemon, like during their fly stage, or like bouncing Pokemon. But chances are, if they're using Fly or Bounce, they're probably a flying type, right? So at best you're doing neutral damage, and more often you're actually just getting resisted. But it's cool that it works that way, right? Slack Off. So as a Snorlax, this is my favorite move, and... What? I've just been informed that Snorlax doesn't actually get Slack Off. What? Alright, well, Slack Off is really good. We're gonna go ahead and put it all the way up here. So Slack Off, it's just like all of the other recovery moves. Gives you back 50% of your HP right away. Nice. Not much else to say about that. I think this was added as the signature move of Slacking, but Slacking never uses it, right? I have 160 base attack and can only act every other turn. I think I'm gonna heal myself. No. Also another featured move on Funbro. It'd be sick if Slacking could use on Truantunes. I think that would actually be really interesting. If the only thing you could do on Truant turns was to slack off, that would actually be, I think, really flavorful and really fun. I think slacking would still be like, you know, bad, but it would be way better. That'd be great. Make it a lot harder to actually take slacking down. Smelling Salts. Apparently it used to be called Smelling Salt with no space, and then it was changed to be Smelling Salts with a space and plural. This is definitely one move I remember when I first played Gen 3 when I was a kid. I'm like, what the hell is Smelling Salt? I still don't know, which is why we're gonna look it up now. I think you use it to like revive people if they're like passed out. Okay, so it's apparently a very strongly smelling salt, as in like a compound, a chemical compound, that you use to help revitalize people who have fainted. Why in the world does this cure paralysis? Okay, let's describe what the move actually does. So, I think it's 70 base power, and then it doubles in power if your opponent is paralyzed, but then it cures their paralysis. And it's a normal type move. Okay. What? Put it like here. What? I thought for the longest time that this woke your opponent up, right? Like it was like wake up slap, but it's not. And this is the signature move of Makuhita line? Why are they carrying like smelling salts? Why is this a normal type move? Why is it cure paralysis and not sleep? What does this have to do with the Makuhita line? So many questions. This is also, what, the second smell-related move? We had Odor Sleuth, and now we've got some smelling salts. What's the Japanese name? I think it's Resuscitate. Kitsuke, yeah, Resuscitation. No salts. Why did they call this smelling salts? Honestly, this might be like a sumo thing. Let's look it up together right now. We'll swap our keyboard to Japanese. So this is actually it's a page about sumo vocab. Let's see if we can find it. Nope. What if we put it in kanji? Not that one. Nope. If I just search without sumo, I get a lot of results for like defibrillators, resuscitating people that way. So nothing about salt. What is this? I guess it would have to do with smelling salts being used in sports, right? That's gotta be it. Yeah, does Bulbapedia even have any trivia on this? So Bulbapedia, as confused as I am, despite real-life smelling salts restoring consciousness, smelling salts cures paralysis. Another move, Wake Up Slap, does this instead. Really confusing. Spit Up. So this has to be done in combination with Stockpile and Swallow. So Stockpile, I'm actually gonna put at the very bottom of Niche because it's bad cosmic power. It gives you +1/+1 to your defenses, but you can only go up to +3, whereas Cosmic Power you can go all the way up to +6. And Stockpile allows you to use Spit Up and Swallow, which are both bad. Very, very bad. What do these moves actually do? I mentioned what Stockpile does. Gives you +1/+1 to your defenses, but it can only go up to 3, because you can Stockpile up to 3. Then you can cash in those stockpiles for huge rewards, right? I mean, you spend so much time setting it up. Well, if you Spit Up, you do 100 base damage normal attack for each turn you stockpiled. But you have to spend a turn stockpiling, so it's kind of like using a 50 base power normal move twice. Well, that seems really bad. But I guess you can hit your opponent with all 3 charges at once? Sounds horrible to me. But it's still better than Swallow. You would assume that 1 charge of Stockpile would give you 50% recovery on Swallow, right? Because you had to invest an entire turn into it. 1 charge of Swallow is 25% recovery. Horrible. 2 charges gets you to Slack Off, but it took you 3 turns. And the max 3 charge Stockpile Swallow gives you full recovery. You're spending 3 of your move slots to unlock Stockpile, Swallow, Spit Up. Awful, awful, awful. Don't do this. The only reason that Stockpile is not in bad is because I use Stockpile in Gen 4 on Drifloon. Or Driftblim, because I didn't actually have access to Cosmic Power, and I would Stockpile, Substitute, and then pass that to a Linoon, who would then sweep with Belly Drum. And if I hadn't done that, I would also put this in bad. I'm biased. Also, it's worth noting that when you use Spit Up or Swallow, you actually lose your Stockpile boost. You basically would use Stockpile by itself, never intending to Swallow or Spit Up. Just keep stocking. Up to 3, I guess. Superpower. Definitely a staple move, but one that you very rarely want to use, right? It's kind of sad. So 120 base power fighting move, 100 accuracy. Ooh, wow. With a pretty severe drawback. It drops your defense, who cares? But it also drops your attack. That's really unfortunate. This was used a lot in Gen 3, and even to this day, for some Pokemon, it's their best option for a fighting move, but that drawback just sucks. If you can learn both Close Combat and Superpower, you're Close Combat and you're getting in there. But if your only option is Superpower, you would begrudgingly use it. And also, if you're a contrary Pokemon that has Superpower, as in, Inkay, the evolution of Inkay, you really like this move. Because it actually becomes a 120 base power fighting move with upside. It also bulks you up. Very nice. Malamar, that's what it's called. Uh-oh, we've got some steel types in the chat. Hang on, we've got to deal with these. You can use Superpower to defeat steel type bots in the chat. Well done. But now we've got an attack and defense penalty. Too bad. enough watch stream girls here and then a link. It's only one sentence, but they couldn't even get the English right. So sad. Well, it's not quite enough watch stream, but it almost is. One more row to go. Tail Glow. I think this is the first move we're covering that actually has a drastic stat boost. So most stat boosts are sharp, which is +2, but this is drastic. It is +3. Ho! Unless you are Volbeat, who uses this and still sucks. Using this turns you into an absolute monster. It's basically used on Manaphy. So Manaphy only has 100 special attack, which isn't bad. But when you multiply it by 2.5 in one turn, wow, get ready to deal big deeps. And of course, because it's a bug move and Game Freak hates bug types for whatever reason, Pokemon snapped. It's gone in Gen 8, but I mean, it had a good run, right? Xurkitree could also use this. Get zapped. Anything else to say about Tail Glow? A really glowing review of this move. It's great. Taunt. Come at me, bro. Worse than useless in-game, right? Because it makes your opponent use attacking moves on you, and you don't actually want that, right? You want them to waste their time doing weird status stuff, maybe, you know, playing some sports, but in competitive, this move is amazing. Amazing. We're gonna put it all the way up here. Taunt is so good. So I mentioned this when we talked about Follow Me, but in most games, Taunt forces your opponent to, like, attack you. This is kind of what it does. It forces your opponent to only use damaging moves. What if they don't have damaging moves that they want to use? Well, you just made them useless. So this is used on offensive Pokemon. If you're against a defensive Pokemon that is about to, people are typing meta defining, sure, yeah. If you're against a defensive Pokemon and the worst thing they can do to you is like cripple you with some sort of status effect or start setting up hazards, pretty much anything that doesn't directly do damage to you but that you still hate, taunt them, bro. And they're completely useless. There's so many scenarios where, like, you're against a defensive Pokemon that you can't quite one-shot. Just completely disable them. Come at me, bro. Ridiculous. Fight me. This is basically a one-hit KO move against defensive Pokemon. Unless they're Ferrothorn, because Ferrothorn can still kill you. Why does it have 94 base attack? Teeter Dance. It's AoE Confuse Ray. Well, Confuse Ray is not that good. And unless your partner has own tempo, you're also going to be confusing your partner. And Confusion has been nerfed, but I mean, it's not bad. We'll put it in niche. In doubles with an own tempo partner, Teeter Dance actually does get to the point where the math works out in your favor, because you spend one turn to confuse both of your opponents, and you might actually come out on top with the math there. It's not that bad, but you're then forced to use an own tempo partner just for this combo? I don't think so. Tickle. Okay. Reduces your opponent's attack and defense, so they spent all that time bulking up and you just tickled them. Negated everything. More useful than you would think. It's bizarre, but one thing that you can do is, with Wobbuffet, trap your opponent and then start tickling. You wouldn't think this would be that useful, but it surprisingly is. Because it both makes your opponent hit you for less and also softens them up. And when they can't switch out, as in if you've shadow tagged them, this sort of puts them in the same situation as Memento, where they are in a weakened state and are forced to switch out, which then gives you a free move. Torment. Prevents your opponent from using the same move twice. You can combo it with Encore to force them to struggle. It's way worse than Taunt or Encore. It's definitely a big gimmick. I wouldn't necessarily call it bad, but it's close. I mean, if your opponent wasn't going to use the same move twice, then this did nothing, right? And very often, they weren't going to use the same move twice. Bonus shoutouts to Torment, though, for actually shutting down choice Pokemon, though, because choice Pokemon obviously can only use one attack, so if you torment them, they start struggling. But honestly, choice Pokemon switch out a lot anyway, so this really isn't gonna affect them that much. Alright, next. Uproar. Just kidding, this is the third time I've pulled the wool over your eyes. Trick! Trick, get tricked, really good. Yeah, Trick swaps items with your opponent. Now, that doesn't sound that good, but it is, it's really good. Specifically with choice items, because the choice items are really, really, really good when you actually want them, and they're really, really, really bad
when you don't. So you put Trick as one of your options on a choiced Pokemon, and then when your opponent switches in like a defensive Pokemon to try and stop you, whoops, you've just made them worse than useless because now they're like dead weight that they have to actually try and get rid of. You can also trick Sticky Barb to instantly win the game. We all know that Sticky Barb is so good. Oh yeah, okay. So there's a separate move called Trick or Treat. Don't choose Treat, choose Trick. If you have Klutz, the ability which negates your item, and your Lopunny, you can actually Trick with Assault Vest. Even though Assault Vest would normally prevent you from using Trick, you can go ahead and give that Assault Vest to a support Pokemon, and then they're really in trouble. But unfortunately to do that, you have to use Lopunny. Yeah, Ripperoni Mega Lopunny, which wasn't a joke, but with Mega's gone, it sadly is. Uproar, the favorite move of gamers everywhere, right? We've risen up and we're in an uproar. Pretty much anytime they announce anything for any game, there's gonna be an uproar, right? They just released a Violet and Scarlet trailer. Was there an uproar about that? Not really, I guess people kind of liked it. I didn't like it. I thought the game looked bad. Filler move. So Uproar actually locks you in, kind of like Thrash, but unlike Thrash, it doesn't actually do that much damage. It has a unique effect in that it causes an uproar, so I think you actually can't fall asleep, or no Pokemon on the field can fall asleep while using Uproar, but unfortunately it doesn't actually affect the player, so you might still fall asleep while playing your Pokemon game. Why do I even make Pokemon videos if I don't like Pokemon games? Did they buff it to 90 BP? Maybe. Let's see. Back-end fetch failed. I guess we won't see. Oh, they buffed it to 90. That's still really underwhelming. Volt Tackle. The move itself is really good, right? 120 base power, physical electric move. It's the electric type Flare Blitz. Why in the world is this Pikachu exclusive? Luxray Weeping. Electivire Weeping. Why is this locked to Pikachu? Pikachu sucks. If you're using Pikachu, you're probably using Volt Tackle, but why are you using Pikachu? Oh, because you like it? Pathetic, okay? Maybe the most represented Pokemon move in Smash, because it's Pikachu's final Smash, right? It's Volt Tackle. Other moves that also made it into Smash as final Smashes, Incineroar's final Smash is one of his Z moves. I think it's his Z Dark move. And Mewtwo's final Smash is Psystrike. And I think Pokemon Trainer's Final Smash uses Solar Beam, Fire Blast, and Hydro Pump in what was, at the time of release at Brawl, blatant cheating. Because you couldn't actually use 3 Pokemon at once yet, no triple battles. Water Pulse. 60 base power water move with a chance to confuse. Hey, that's fine. Pretty good filler move. Nice. Very good on Technician Persian with Nasty Plot. For some fun gimmicks. Filler, but you're not too upset about it. And the TM means it's pretty widely available. And if you have Mega Launcher, it's actually better than Surf, since you actually just get the bonus confusion. Weather Ball. The forecast is low staples. So, Weather Ball, if you're not in weather, it sucks. It's 50 base power normal. But if you're in weather, the power doubles to 100? And it also becomes the type of whatever weather you're in. So like Victory Bell, and I think Venusaur also gets this? Gives them some serious firepower, literally firepower in Sun. Really not bad at all. But you have to use this on a weather team. If it's not some sort of weather, this thing sucks. You can use it on stuff other than Cast Form. Lots of Pokemon get Weather Ball. Ninetales can use it. Stronger than Flamethrower, right? Because you're going to be in the sun because you have Drought. Really glad that it got to escape the clutches of Cast Form. We, unfortunately, did not escape the clutches of, bot messages. Hang on, I need a Fire-type Weather Ball to defeat this. Will-O-Wsip. Fire-type move, I think 85% accuracy, I think got buffed. Burns your opponent. Honestly, I think this is meta-defining. You could say it's the top of staples, but Will-O-Wsip is everywhere. Orion the Will-O-Wsip. If your opponent is a physical attacker, congratulations, they now suck. Unless they have Guts, in which case you're gonna die. But that's why Guts is so good. This move existing is a big reason why fire types are better than they would be otherwise, because you can't get burned at all. So if you're a physical fire attacker, just go crazy. You don't have to worry about it. And this is the only reliable way to inflict a burn, aside from Scald, which I mean isn't reliable, but Scald is stupid. Scald is top of it defining. But yeah, the Japanese name of this, Onibi, Demon Fire. Is why a bunch of ghosts also get this. So, ghosts and fire types, negating your physical attacks with a spicy Will-O-Wisp. Good move. When you wish upon a star, get half your health back next turn. I don't know. Wish is pretty good. So what Wish does is, well, there's only one wish you can make. It's to get back 50% of your HP next turn. Now, ordinarily, that would just be worse than instant recovery, right? Because it's my healing and I want it now. But you have to wait a turn for this. It's really not that bad because it has advantages over instant recovery because getting the recovery next turn, if you don't need it now, is good because that means if your opponent attacks you, then, well, they didn't do anything because you just heal it off. You can combo it with Protect to make sure you don't die. And the big thing about Wish, which is what makes it, I'd say an alternative to the instant recovery things instead of just worse, is that you can Wish Pass. So what that means is you activate Wish, and then you can bring in a different Pokemon. And that Pokemon is healed by 50% of the wishing Pokemon's HP. And that can be very useful. So Wish is one of the very few ways you can actually heal your teammates. Very nice. Yeah, you can. There's also an event Blissey that can wish, so a wish from Blissey is a full heal. You can wish on Blissey and then switch into any Pokemon, and assuming they didn't get killed, Wish is going to heal them back up to full. As we did it. Last move. 6-hour stream. And I woke up at 6, as always, to sort of get these ready, so I'm always using Yawn during these streams, but hopefully you're not. Hopefully you've been entertained. So Yawn, interesting move. It does nothing the turn you selected, but it makes your opponent drowsy. And then next turn, they fall asleep. So this is a 100% accurate sleep move, but it's delayed. It's really annoying. I would say, I don't know. I think I'm actually gonna put this at the top of niche because unfortunately, despite this being a 100% accurate sleep move, it gives your opponent a lot of control. Because I wouldn't quite say it forces a switch. It encourages your opponent to switch, but if they really gotta get their next turn, they still can, right? And that's a big disadvantage. Because they might just say, you know what, I can take the sleep. I'll do it, I'll stay in, I'll use my move, and then I'll fall asleep. Is it a sound move? I don't know, I think it is. We can check. Or we can get an error message. Nope. So soundproof blocks snore, but it doesn't block yawn, so only half the sleep in combo. I just put all of the viewers to sleep next turn, so good thing that we're about to end. And there we go, that is our Pokemon Generation 3 moves tier list. Beautiful. Be sure to use follow me, right? Be sure to subscribe, perhaps join the Discord, or evolve into a Patreon, linked in the description. Hope you enjoyed, and again, if you are watching the premium version, which you definitely are if you're hearing this, please subscribe to the Imported Cheese Fresh channel. We really got to get to 1,000 subs for greed purposes, but also for experience purposes, because then we get the emotes. Please helping me. I hope you enjoyed. I guess I forgot camouflage, it's not on the list, but I mean we can edit it in maybe?